It's awesome to talk to you, Mickey. We are, of course, talking Country Gold, which I think is a hell of a great movie. I got to see it during Fantasia Fest. That
Nice.
was cool.
So you were one of basically the first audience to see it then.
Yeah, it's such an interesting movie, and I'm kind of curious, like, how did the idea for that come about?
Yeah, so I guess 3 movies ago, we did, we made basically after making Strike Your Mistress and Curious Heart, Climate of the Hunter, and Agnes. These are kind of like these like Ingmar Bergman influenced kind of horror adjacent movies in kind of a trilogy. But before those, we did a movie called Alien, and it was about Elvis. It was kind of an alternate history Elvis movie, shot in black and white. And then after completing this kind of like spiritual sequel, like horror trilogy, horror adjacent trilogy, then it was like, all right, we need to get back to now. We need to make the Alien into a trilogy. So this is number 2 in the American iconography, completely altered history movies that we were doing. So it was, I think that the log line came up with first, which was George Jones invites Garth Brooks out on the town in Nashville the night before he used to be cryogenically frozen. That was the first thing that was came up with, and it was like, all right, well, now let's write that movie. Because just thinking about like Elvis, you can put anybody in an Elvis costume and people are going to be like, oh yeah, that's Elvis. So I felt like Garth Brooks was kind of the same way. You put him in a white and black shirt with a black cowboy hat, anybody, and it's going to be like, oh, that's clearly Garth Brooks. It's just that iconic imagery.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because Garth Brooks kind of went through this weird what was his alter ego? Chris
Chris
Gaines.
Gaines.
Yeah. So I think it was really fascinating because I was watching some of your previous interviews, and in the one you were kind of saying about how you don't want to be necessarily known for like one genre specifically. Like you just want to be known for like just being able to make a good film, like tell a good story. Like is it like constantly like worried that you might get pigeonholed into like a specific genre?
I mean, it's not a worry, but I thought after doing those 3, it was time to go back to the roots, go back to the well, and like figure something out of doing a comedy, because that's what I prefer. But I mean, I think I don't necessarily prefer to work in comedy. I like them to all be comedies. I mean, even the horror movies that we did are still, to me, comedies to a degree. And so it was just, this is more, I think the comedy is more suited for this kind of movie. And so I wanted to get back to that where I could really mine some comedy out of it.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I really love just how much you really look like Garth Brooks. Like it is
Well, I
really,
don't, but you put that hat and the shirt on, and like I said, like anybody can look like Garth Brooks. Anybody with like a chubby face can look like Garth Brooks.
yeah, I could maybe pull that off. Um,
Maybe.
so I'm kind of curious. Did you always kind of want to like be the lead in this? Was that all? Because I know you've acted before.
Yeah, I usually acting before was always like, oh, so and so didn't show up, so I got to step in. This is kind of the first time I like took the lead role. And the actor I originally had, it just didn't work out timing wise with him, and so he's a guy I had worked with in movies before. And so I thought, I will just play it the way I think he would have played it, or the way I kind of wanted him to play it. Because the second choice is just like, well, it'll be me, because also the other thing is I'm short and Ben Hall is not very tall, but he's taller than me, and I needed another actor to be smaller than George. So I don't know, a lot of different reasons of why I chose the role. I'm sorry, it's not that interesting, but it was more just like necessity.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
yeah, I just got, and like the script, the way it was written, it really wasn't written that way. It was just kind of like more improvised, because that's what that's what Mason, the actor who I originally wanted to play, that's how he would have done it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to keep the script simple, and then I'm just going to improvise when I get there and add a bunch of, um, just little flourishes to the character as we go. And, because Mason has this thing of like, really creating like this kind of cocky asshole that can also be humbled very quickly because, it's all kind of like he's a good person at heart. He's just like putting on an air to be, confident.
Yeah, and now you mentioned Ben Hall, which I think he's fantastic. I even noted that in my review that like he gives such a powerhouse performance, and I know you've collaborated with him a bunch, so I imagine it must have been kind of easy to kind of play off one another.
Yeah, absolutely. We've made a lot of movies together now, so we're pretty good friends, and so it was nice to get there and like kind of let's see what it's like on this end of the camera, and interestingly, like of course Ben, when we started talking about the role, of course Ben was like, all right, so I need to like watch some George Jones and get some of those mannerisms down. And I'm like, no, don't look at any George Jones stuff. This is a completely original character. His name just happens to be George Jones, which is kind of like how we took the Garth character as well, Troy Brooks. Um, so so yeah, it wasn't really isn't that kind of movie. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people are, of course, naturally are going to think that it's very Garth and George oriented, and like some of it's going to be factual, and there's going to be some interesting stuff for fans of Garth and George. But unfortunately, it's not there because these are like basically our own characters.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so interesting because I was actually going to ask if you did any kind of preparation on like playing, as you say, you're not Garth Brooks, but you're like in that sort of vein. So,
Well,
um,
Garth Brooks' real name is Troy Garth Brooks.
hmm,
Like, no, that's his actual name.
hmm.
So the character in this, Troy Brooks, I mean, it is Garth. It's just an alternate reality. So in this reality, we call him Troy instead of Garth.
Hmm. That's interesting. I did not know that. So I don't really know a lot about country music, so it's kind of not my genre of choice. But speaking of that, are you a country music fan, or was that just something that it was just like, you had that idea of like this weird sort of like alternate history or
I wouldn't say that I'm a fan of country music, but I certainly know a lot of country music, growing up in Oklahoma with your parents and stuff, and there's people, neighbors, and everybody was listening to country music in a time when I was a kid. So I do know all those songs. But I don't think I've ever like, never bought an album, like been excited about a George Strait or a Garth Brooks CD or something that came out.
Now, speaking of music, you have a band, El Paso Hot Button. Are you doing anything more with like, are you planning on releasing a new album or anything like that?
No, I stopped playing. I think the last time I played a show was probably like 12 years ago or something.
Hmm.
Uh, no, that was like, a different lifetime. And I played, just kind of toured mostly regionally, but sometimes we go on the coast and stuff and play. And a lot of Austin, a lot of playing in Austin, as I recall. But this was, yeah, a different time. So unfortunately, the two are not necessarily related in any way now.
Um,
Other than just it does every once in a while have some benefits, like in writing the song at the end of the Elvis movie, or writing the song at the end of this movie. Every once in a while I'll write a song for a movie or something like that, but it's not necessarily, I don't know, I just got the filmmaking bug and didn't really care about music anymore. I'm
yeah.
still kind of there.
I thought it was really interesting because I am relatively new to your sounds like former band. And I was checking out Turtle Wars, which kind of feels like it could be a movie. Would that be ever something you would ever like turn into a movie? Like it
uh,
feels like there's some narrative there that you could maybe, I don't know.
I don't know. I was too young. I wouldn't remember what was going on in my head to like get back to that. Um, I believe there's a yeah, I believe it was like kind of a concept album about some turtles taking over the world or something like that. But once again, it was in 2005, so I don't
Yeah.
know what was going on in my head at that time.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty interesting. I really like the sound. I think it's kind of cool that, even though it's something that you don't do anymore, it's kind of awesome that you dabbled in it. I mean, I think that like anybody that can like write, direct, act, you like occasionally write songs, that's mind blowing to me.
Uh, well, I wouldn't say I can act, but the um, yeah, and it's all bred from necessity of just constantly like making stuff, and so I didn't really think I could write and direct either, like something that was any kind of that had any kind of substance or any kind of relevance. And then after making many movies by myself and then starting to work with the crew, I was like, oh, this is easier than it was making movies by myself. So I have gotten better, been able to hone my skills a little better with these last 3 or 4 movies, working with crews and stuff now. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I am a director. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the next one
Yeah.
does.
Well,
I
I
always I
think
always feel like an imposter, so
no, I think you're a great director. I really have enjoyed watching your films. And so I need to wrap up, but people can see your movie Country Gold on April 4th. Is that right?
yep.
And I'm assuming like VOD, all that good stuff.
Yeah, it'll be available, Amazon, iTunes, the usual suspects, and then for streaming on Fandor. Um, right now, it's still kind of doing theaters, so we've got another run coming up on over the weekend with some select cities, so
Nice.
including Hawaii.
Hmm, nice.
Yeah, I
Um,
would have liked to have gone there.
yeah, that's awesome. Also, I gotta tell you really quick, I love your blowout poster behind you. So
Oh, thank you.
that's
Thank you.
great.
So I've got my living room just like covered in movie posters, and there's actually a Nebraska one right here. The Nebraska and the blow up posters kind of look similar. Um, but yeah, so I'll just like so this in this room, this is kind of like my editing room, and I'll just have some here and there, and I'll sometimes just go interchange them and put new posters in the living room.
Nice. Well, thank you again for talking to me. Country Gold is awesome, and I will be sure to link in the description where y'all can check that out. And as you said, it's going to be on VOD April 4th, so everyone should check that out. And thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Yep.